The vast majority of the spilled oil has been dispersed or removed from the water. So the long battle to stop the leak and contain the oil is finally close to coming to an end.
Sub in Iraq for oil, and you've got your Monday headline.
Top line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Carl.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest in politics, everything you need to know, and it's twitter.com/Rick Klein, twitter.com/John Carl to know even more than is even good for you. Sir, please, what's got your eye today?
Mission accomplished. You heard it from the president. The oil leak is stopped. The combat mission in Iraq, as we heard earlier this week, is over. And if you remember, Secretary Geithner in the New York Times yesterday on welcome to the recovery. A lot of talk about how the recession has ended. Mission accomplished on all three fronts. But Rick, you know, as we learned with the last president, it can be a little dangerous to start declaring the mission accomplished.
This is risky in all things. Obviously, the White House wants to change perceptions of all three of these areas, in addition to many others. But going out and saying it, I think headlines like that, not helpful for the White House. And saying that the leak is plugged, if there's any problems with the leak, saying if that we're getting out of Iraq, any problems with Iraq, it opens you up to more criticism. But obviously, they're out there talking about this for a reason. Next up, primary wrap. Big day of voting yesterday, and another surprise. The fourth incumbent of the year to fall, Carolyn Cheeks Kirkpatrick, the Democratic Congresswoman from Michigan, loses in her Democratic primary. Of course, you'll recall that Kirkpatrick is the daughter of the former mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick, in Detroit. That's not a great name to have. I'm sorry, the mother. Of the not a great name to have these days. In addition to that, our famous one tough nerd, Rick Snyder, the Republican candidate for governor in Michigan, he moves on. So a couple of interesting results.
Interesting. That's a victory for our friend John Weaver, John McCain's erstwhile political advisor, campaign guru. A couple other interesting races, though. You had in Kansas a Papa Grizzly go down. Todd Tiahrt, who had been endorsed by Sarah Palin, he loses the nomination for the Republican Senate nomination. And then the real big one yesterday was in Missouri, where you had a situation where 71% of the voters reject the health care bill, essentially. Of course, it was a heavy Republican turnout, but a light turnout overall, so I don't know how much it means, but a very big, decisive 71% vote there. Next up, the first commandment. This goes back to Sharon Angle, the Republican nominee, of course, for Senate in Nevada. Our friend John Ralston, the Nevada political analyst, has uncovered an interview that she gave back in April where she talked about, well, I just have to play it. Here it is.
And these programs that you mentioned that Obama has going with Reid and Pelosi, pushing them forward, are all entitlement programs built to make government our God. And that's really what's happening in this country, is a violation of the First Commandment.
So just to be clear, what you just heard her say is that Reid and Pelosi and President Obama are trying to make government our God, and that is a violation of the First Commandment.
Commandment, not amendment.
I don't know if that goes to the Supreme Court or where that goes, but
there's higher authorities than that, even when it gets right down to it. And finally, today, kaput. And I'm not referring to Levi and Bristol. I promise I'm not. I'm talking about the Senate Energy Bill, which was declared dead, at least for now, by Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid yesterday. A blow to Democrats. And really, John, it's fascinating. You have the biggest environmental disaster in our nation's history, everyone acknowledging an energy crisis, if not an environmental crisis, and 59 Senate Democrats, and they can't get anything done.
Yeah, and, you know, one of the questions that comes to mind is, you know, throughout all of this, where was Al Gore? Al Gore was the voice you just didn't hear on this issue. And if they couldn't do it now, they just can't do it. But are you serious? You were not going to bring up...
No, I was not. Levi, it had nothing to do with Levi and Bristol.
I
don't care about that relationship at all, and the fact that it's over.
And the fact that Sarah Palin said, you know, next time she'll know, trust but verify.
I don't care about that at all, I promise.
You didn't get none of that.
Promise, John.
Okay.
We begin today's discussion with Senator Jeff Sessions, the ranking Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Republican of Alabama, with the vote looming tomorrow to confirm Elena Kagan. Thank you, Senator Sessions, for being here. I want to ask you, first of all, you've been out there very critical of a lot of things we heard from Elena Kagan at the hearings, urging your colleagues to vote no, yet she's going to be confirmed in all likelihood tomorrow pretty easily. What was missed? What was the key point you think that your colleagues were not hearing about Elena Kagan, your concerns?
Well, I think a record is problematic, but perhaps not enough members have observed her testimony. and the fact that it was more political spin than really honest a description of a series of matters that she was involved with over the years that I think raised questions about her legal capacity, the clarity of her mind as a lawyer, as a judge. But I think the American people get it. This idea of an activist judge is being rejected by the people. So I think we're winning that debate. And in the long term, it's so important that we have objective judges, not as President Obama says, who allow their empathy to move us to a, quote, broader vision of what America should be. That's not the role of a judge, and it needs to be soundly rejected. One Democrat has indicated already that he will vote no, and it'll be interesting to see how many others will. They're not lemmings. They have to make up their own mind.
I'm going to guess that's going to be 0 in terms of how many others vote no. But I want to ask you about one of your Republican colleagues who is going to vote yes. Lindsey Graham, you know, he's no raging liberal when it comes to judicial issues. And he said that she performed very well during those hearings, and that he believes that she's thoroughly qualified. And although he might disagree with her on some issues, the president is the guy that won election, and it's his right to kind of, you know, choose the direction of the court when it comes to ideology.
Well, she'll get her vote, and Senator Graham gives a lot of deference and has consistently done so to the president, but I don't think she did well at the hearing. I disagree on that. I don't think she did well at all. I was actually disappointed and surprised about her lack of clarity, her lack of really honest answers to the questions. It was just too much spin.
Senator Sessions, big story that'll be developing later today. We're expecting the ruling out of the court in California on the gay marriage ban. There's a wide expectation that that's going to be tossed out and that gay marriage will go forward. I know we're just speculating at this hour, but what message would that send if this is overturned, if you have the will of the people overturned by a judge?
Well, it's another example of a judge allowing their personal, political, ideological views to impact their decision making. The people who wrote our Constitution and the amendments to it would have been flabbergasted, amazed that somebody would declare that our Constitution defined marriage in this fashion, other than that it had been traditionally done. In other words, the states should have the right to define marriage as they choose, and the Constitution does not in any way constrict that, in my view. So I think it's an example of the things that irritate the American people. One reason why Elena Kagan's numbers in a recent poll that just came out are the lowest of any recent nominee for confirmation.
Do you think Elena Kagan would side with a judge that would legalize gay marriage?
Well, she violated the law at Harvard and blocked the military from going on campus because she disagreed with the gay policy that Congress had established, not the military. And she failed, and this is very serious to me. She failed as a Solicitor General after she had promised to defend that don't ask, don't tell law. She failed to defend it effectively and has left it under a great cloud when, had she taken it to the Supreme Court, it would have been upheld, I'm confident. So, yes, I think she has certain ideological views, social views that are likely to influence her decision-making and objectivity on the bench. That's disqualifying, really.
You know, it strikes me, given how strong you are here in your opposition to her nomination, why did you stop short of filibustering it? I mean, why not just go all the way and block it? It sounds like you're saying she's a threat.
Well, I guess in one sense, Senator Graham and I disagree on one area. I don't think that I should feel any compunction to vote for this nominee, but I do believe that a filibuster is a high burden. I'm not prepared to do that. I don't think the Senate is prepared to do that at this point. But it is troubling, and the American people need to be engaged about this, because if we continue to have this kind of nominee to the Supreme Court, rights like the right to keep and bear arms, which was upheld by a 5-4 vote, will be lost. And I think it's important.
And just quickly, you also opposed Sotomayor, of course. You voted against her nomination. And it's hard to rank, you know, who you're more opposed to something, but it almost sounds like your opposition to Kagan is even more so than Sotomayor. I mean, if you had to, if somebody said, okay, you got to have one of these two on the court, where would you stand?
Well, you know, Sotomayor had 17 years as a judge. There were some things in her background that made me think she might not be activist, but it does appear this first year on the bench she's been one of the leading activists on the court on liberals.
Right.
But I think Kagan has no real experience. I mean, she is the least experienced nominee in 50 years. Not only has she not been a judge, she's not even practiced law. She never tried a case.
Senator Jeff Sessions, Republican of Alabama, thanks for joining us, and good luck in the final hours before the vote tomorrow. Appreciate it.
Thank you.